Hi, ladies and gentlemen. David Nair on air, all the way from Chennai, or India, I should say, not Australia. I understand we are commenced this broadcast and it's going across from India through to a number of countries, South Africa, UAE, Australia, Europe, and Singapore, Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome each of the audiences in the various countries that are looking at us or who will be looking at us later in the broadcast, subsequent broadcasts. If you have any questions following this interview with Dr. Alka Chadha, I would sincerely suggest drop us an email to support@davidnair.net. I repeat it, support@davidnair.net. Who's this guy called David Nair? As a peak performance coach, keynote speaker, author of a book titled I Excel Wired for Success, and a second book titled Grail, Tick Your Life Right with Purpose, I have actually worked with probably 40 countries with approximately 250 to 300,000 people across these countries over the last 30 years. My main trust has been in people development. Why do I do that? My purpose, ladies and gentlemen, is very simply put, to create a mindset shift, a heart set shift, and a soul set shift in 1 million people, lifting their lifestyle and that of the next generation, giving them hope. And I spell hope this way, HOPE, help other people evolve. The acronym has helped me come through and work with a lot of people across the globe. And I have been fortunate enough to have been able to transform a significant number of people to step up in their life. One of the key things that we do, ladies and gentlemen, when we go across platforms is to look for key performers in their own industry and showcase them on this platform. We always look for people who have done the walk before they do the talk, and that is imperative. It is not somebody who comes and puts theory up here. So you have got a wonderful lady here today to listen to on what she has put together in relation to mind. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic today and what we're going to cover today is very simply put as follows. You will now understand, tap your mind right to create an aha moment and tube light moment. And what we have is a lady by the name of Dr. Alka Chadha. She has been in the medical profession for a number of years, a practicing doctor, a founder of a reputable clinic, Hope and Care Center in Delhi, the Happiness Academy in Delhi, and founder of the Senior Citizens Club. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Alka Chadha. Thank you so much. Welcome aboard, Dr.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. It's always a pleasure, and it's my pleasure to having this conversation with you. I'm always happy
Thank you.
to talk with you. Thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. And it's great to have had you. And I so look forward to having this discussion. And let's roll this thing out with key areas that we're going to talk on. One key area is for you to kickstart with your journey and your story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, David, I want to ask some questions to my audience when we're talking about the mind. First
Yeah.
question I want to ask is, what do you really, really want from your life? That question is so important. And who do you really want to become? If I remember as a young girl, when I was just married, I finished my MD. I was having a job in the medical college of associate professor, and I was about to give up my job to start my private practice in the city of Mumbai. I'm in Mumbai, not in Delhi. So
Oh,
at that
so
time,
sorry.
yeah, it's all right. At that time, I was so scared. I was pregnant
Right.
9 months, and it was one day in the evening when I got my pains, my waters burst, and I was petrified. I was in
Mm.
excruciating pain, and I was so scared. My husband and I rushed me to the hospital. It was my first baby. So we went, and it was 10 p.m. when we reached the hospital. And my husband's looked at the watch, and then he looked at me. He looked straight into my eyes, and then he was holding my hand, and tightly holding my hand. And very sweetly, he looked into my eyes and he said, I have an idea. I said, what? What's an idea? What idea do you have? So he's a very compassionate man. So I thought it must be to, cheer me up from my pain or to distract me from my pain. So I said, okay, tell me, what is it? So he said, can we go for a walk and come back after a 1 hour or so, or 1.5 hours or so? Actually, I wanted to scream. But then I said, this man is sensible. He must be thinking of something. And later on, I found out that the reason he wanted to do that was he wanted to save one night's bed charges of the hospital. Anyway, I agreed. I agreed, and we went out for a walk. And when we came back the same evening, I delivered a beautiful, handsome baby boy. And looking at that boy again, I was scared, and all kinds of questions kept popping into my head. I was thinking, what kind of child I'm going to bring up, what kind of mom I'm going to be. And I was really scared. But at that fraction of that moment, something happened. And I started feeling that this is a gift from God. My heart was filled with gratitude that this is a gift from God and I should be grateful for this. And then I started thinking, I'm going to be the best mom in the whole world. I'm going to give so much of unconditional love to my child, so much of fertilizers and manure for this seed to grow into a beautiful, wonderful, unique flower. It can
Mm,
blossom into a unique flower with unique fragrance, like each one of our audience today. Each one of you is unique, my audience. I want to tell that to you, and 3 cheers to all of you who are listening to me. So, this is what happened. And at that moment, the fear was conquered, and I was filled with new kinds of thoughts. And what I decided was, I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. That was it.
mm,
Just by changing
right.
my thoughts, I changed my story and I changed my life. And I want to tell you today, I integrate neuroscience, emotional science, and the knowledge of the scriptures. And I help youngsters to find their North Star, to focus on their purpose, and to achieve happiness and success. On our
Wow.
journey, David, we get to hear a lot of negative things. And I want
Yes.
to tell everyone, after I joined the Mental Resilience Mastery with Mr. David Nair, I want to invite him to
Thank
tell
you.
us how does he conquer this negativity and this no excuses. We call it NENN. And I want to tell us, David, how do you do this? Please tell us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alka. The reason being, this is a lead up to our brain and mind integration that we're going to talk shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you realize on a daily basis, every day, there is 60,000 thoughts, not one, not two, 60,000 thoughts that flow into us and flow out of us on a daily basis. From the time you get up, no, even before you get up, right to the time you go to sleep, 60,000 thoughts. I want you to just understand and appreciate the magnitude of this. So let me just illustrate it this way. How many of you recall as you are growing up in some of the cities, in the city that you live in or nearby, there are roundabouts? And in those roundabouts, why do the town planners create roundabouts? Is to ensure there's a smooth flow of traffic. Now, those roundabouts either have two, three, or four roads merging into it. And as traffic comes in, it goes right round and then it finds an exit out. That's a system in which cars come in, cars go out. And that is to accommodate somewhere between 50 to 100 cars for a roundabout. Now, with the evolution of time and road and manufacturing of cars, today roundabouts are becoming extinct with flyovers. So the traffic is going smoother that way, but they're only accommodating in the hundreds. I am telling you, we have 60,000 thoughts that are coming in at a gush. And if it's coming in at a gush to a roundabout, what sort of a traffic jam is that going to create? First point. Second point, in India, a lot of people live in apartment complexes. So you have a security man in the front gate. Imagine, just imagine for a moment, 60,000 cars waiting to crash into your entrance or come into your entrance. Can that security person cope with it? In most cases, in a lot of cases, no. My question, take note of this, ladies and gentlemen. Who, who is the gatekeeper of your mind? Who is that gatekeeper? Is he controlling the thoughts that needs to come in, or is he opened it up such that the gate waters are open for every thought to come in? Take stock. You are the controller. The reason why Alka used the term captain of a soul, you need to take charge of it. If you do not do certain practices, this will not be there. The gatekeeper will be a slum, simple, a security man that can just be blow him and he falls over. Now, that's not what you want. That's controlling your mind. At the same time, while we went through that, there is a concept that I put in primarily to ensure that no negativity, no excuses is put in place. No negativity, no excuses. And what has happened with that is very simple. It's a practice that we want people to abide by on a daily basis, 24/7. And I'll be very honest with you, even in the mastermind that I'm running currently, Mental Resilience Mastery, there's only a handful of people who have been able to take that challenge up. And out of that handful, only one, if not two, that have started practicing it. And we are into 30 weeks. It is not an easy exercise. So if you want to be a captain of your ship to control your mind, you've got to start using some of these practices. And it's only then can you have clarity. You don't want 60,000 thoughts coming in. You want to be able to filter it. So that is the reason why we talk about things like this. And from here, Alka, how is this no negativity, no excuses affecting the brain? And is there any research and development done on the neuroplasticity for this to come through?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll tell you a story, but before that,
Please.
I was remembering when I used to play badminton, and I used to always lose from a girl. And all I did was complain about that girl, that she's very good looking, and the referee is very partial to her. She's very beautiful, and I used to keep losing and keep losing all the matches. It was at that time I remember my dad sat me down and he told me, "Look at your service, look at your backhand." And when I practiced after that for my full vacation time, when I was in standard 9 that time, and I practiced and practiced, and then finally I was able to win that match with that girl. So we can keep on blaming, we can keep on finding excuses unless and until we look at our own self, what are we doing with our own skills, and what are we doing with our own life, with our own thoughts, with our own actions. So let me tell you one story, David. There was this young boy, 25 years of age, at the
Yeah.
1800s, in the 1800s, and he was a railroad worker. So one day in the afternoon, he was pounding explosive material into the hole on the road with a very heavy iron rod. This heavy iron rod, as he was pounding the explosive material, it, it cut through his cheek and through his brain, and it went out from the head and landed 30, 80 feet away. So you can imagine the power with which he was hurt from his cheek to his brain. This boy was Phoenix Gage, and he was a very, very altruistic person, a generous person, a very friendly person, a kind boy. And after this accident, what they studied was that he changed completely. He didn't want to see his friends, and he left his job obviously, and then he was doing some other work, but he had changed his personality. It was this incident which, which they saw that the frontal lobe was destroyed completely. As you know, we have five, six lobes on the external surface of the brain. And this particular lobe, because it was destroyed, he did not die, but his personality changed. It was at that time that neuroscience and the neuroscientists they started studying the brain structure as to what is happening in the brain of a human being. Why does a man survive and why does a man change because of a one particular part of the brain is gone? So if I can have the image for about 5 seconds, I'd just like to show you the five parts of the brain. The image one. So we have in the front, we have the very big part, which is the frontal brain. At the back, we have the occipital brain, which is in charge of the visual processes. And then we have the temporal brain, temporal lobe, which is in charge of the hearing, and we have the parietal lobe, which is in charge between the it's in charge of the spatial orientation. And below down we have the cerebellum, external I'm talking about, which is containing actually 80% of the neurons or the nerve cells in the brain, and this part is in charge of the balancing. Now, when we talk about the occipital brain, I want David to tell us how he has been teaching us how to make the vision board and the power of visualization, which happens in this posterior part of the brain, which is called the occipital lobe. Over to you, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Many people have understood this concept of visualization and vision boards. So they go out and they start doing this with the intent of, okay, I'm going to create a vision board and I'll sit back, aram say, and the things that I want will manifest and it'll just fall from heaven. No, 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 no. There are certain processes you have to put together to ensure your vision board comes and manifestation happens. As an example, I don't know if anybody here understands or knows of a person called Walt Disney, the person who founded Disney World.
Yes.
Now, going back in time, Walt was basically an investor in various aspects of industries. And he was flying back from South America one time on a charter plane, and he could see this desert ground just outside of Las Vegas. And he could see this desert ground, and he asked a pilot to take him through those places such that he could then turn around and have a look whether he could invest in it or not. And what happened out of that was very simple. On looking at it, he realized that that ground was worth buying. He purchased it. He purchased this ground. And he went back home, and everybody was laughing at him. He's about in the pits of bankruptcy because he has got debts everywhere. This is before Disney World was built. And he bought this land, and he had the vision of creating the largest playground center in the world for kids and for adults. Guess what? He had the blueprints done. People started the construction. They borrowed money helter skelter. And like any new business startup, there was a lot of challenges. He went through that. One thing happened to him. He didn't see the end of the project because he passed away before it. Now, his wife was invited to come and do the opening ceremony of that event, and it's called Walt Disney's Tower. And as she was cutting the ribbon, many of the newspaper agents or reporters were clicking their heads and saying, "What a pity. Walt did not see the end of his dream." And these were his words from the wife. I want you to remember this carefully and succinctly put it in your head. She clicked her mouth and she said, "Walt saw it in his mind well before you could see it in place." And she said, "I've been living with him for 40 years, sleeping with him every night, and that's all he could visualize, that's all he could talk. That's basically an obsession of his. And because of the process he went through, hardship, visualization impacted that. Today, Walt has got Walt Disney in a number of countries across the globe. That's the power of visualization. And when I've done the same thing with corporates, the same thing applied. You don't know how powerful this little part of the brain is. If you know how to utilize it effectively, the world is your oyster. Thank you, Alka. Follow through.
Absolutely. This is so wonderful. It also talks about the husband and wife chemistry. They both were looking at the similar dream together, and it goes
Yeah.
very well. So I just want to tell you one thing, that there is another part of the brain, which is the frontal lobe. And before I start talking about the frontal lobe, which is the largest part of the brain, I want to say to you that you know we have a symphony. A symphony is happening inside us. There's an orchestra. Is there some sound problem? There's
I
a-
don't know where it's coming from. Sunita, is there a sound issue?
Okay. So we have this billions of neurons in our brain, and they're all playing an orchestra, and each neuron, each nerve cell is showing a little part of us in the nerve cell. What makes me, me, and what makes you, you, is reflected in our nerve cells. So now I want to tell you, friends, that as a young girl, what was taught to me, I remember my dad was admitted in the hospital and he had a heart attack, a massive heart attack, and I was worried. I was doing my second MBBS studies. I was so scared that something was going to happen to my dad, and if he goes away, then what am I going to do without him? Because at that time, my mother said to me, "Don't talk wrong things. Talk only good things. Shubh shubh bolo." She used to always say, and she was the one who introduced the seed of spirituality in me to have faith and to have surrender in the higher intelligence. I said, okay. And those 48 hours passed. And when my dad came home after 3 weeks, my mom, she looked up at the sky and she showed her gratitude and she said, it is a grace of God that Papa has come home. And then she winked at him and she told him that, I was kind of missing you because I had nothing to fight with. So my mom, she was a queen of gratefulness, and she taught me that to be grateful for little things in life. So I want to tell you all, friends, that the frontal lobe is the lobe which is in charge of our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our emotions, our planning, our reasoning, our execution. It is the executive of the human mind, and the actions are done by this. The judgment part, the execution part, and all the reasoning is done by this brain. So if we don't exercise this brain, we are going to be in trouble. Like for example, I told you that if we what can we do to strengthen this part? David, can you tell us some of the points when we should?
Practice. Oh my God! You see, most people don't realize they try some activity and they've done it once or done it twice, and they say, "I've done it."
Yeah,
Unless you have practiced it, this is my philosophy. Unless you practice it over 100 times, please do not say you've done it. I'll give you one example. One example. When I started as MRM, I wanted to sort of instill in our MRM members, the 55 of them, that they understood what it takes to imbibe to your fiber, to your DNA, into your brain wiring, the concepts that we plant there by practicing, practicing, practicing. So I took one of the performers there. I won't mention names currently because I think it's going across country. There's one of our performers there who came through, and I said to her before she started, I said, I'm going to use you as a demo model. Do you mind? No. So I started asking her questions, and each time a question was asked, I followed it through. Have you done the practice? Have you done the practice? Have you done the practice? I was basically drilling down to that 7, 8, 9 levels deep in what coaches call coaching questions. And as I went down there, she said, no, no, no. And the irony of it was, after the session, when she went back, calls were coming to her to say, that's such a simple thing. If you had a problem with that, you should have come and asked us. We could have helped you rather than waiting for this practice session. And she said, you missed the whole exercise. That was a demo to show you how practice can be mastered. And like anything else, guys, why do people go to the gym? Why do people, the heavyweight champions, build their muscles on it? Primarily because they want to showcase what they have. The same thing in your brain. You want to showcase your brain in your business. You want to showcase your brain in your relationship. You want to showcase your brain in your spiritual life. Start practicing this in there. These templates are what's going to make you powerful. Thank you so much, Alka. On to you now.
thank you, David. So what you're talking about is going into the discomfort zone and doing
Yes,
what you don't want to do. So when you
yes.
go in a particular area of your life, if you're sitting in the AC room of your house, how can you achieve
Yeah.
anything? So I'm saying that going into the discomfort zone, doing what you don't feel like doing, disciplining
Mm.
yourself, committing yourself to doing what you not feel like doing is the first way to enhance and to make the frontal lobe bigger. What are the other things? That depends on what are you looking for. This symphony, this body, human body and mind, spirit, this is a symphony. This is a harmonized thing. If I can create harmony within this mind, body, spirit, I can create harmony outside of me. It's all inside out. It is not outside in. We are, as youngsters, we are focusing on the outside. But as we are growing, we understand that the whole life and the whole thing is from inside out. What am I thinking? What am I talking? What are my words like? Am I hurting people? What are my feelings and what are my behavior? And my behavior translated to my performance. So it's a question of being mindful and looking at my own words and my behavior. This is some of the first things which I want to tell you, that we will enhance the structure of your neocortex or the frontal brain. Now, what else can we do to enhance the structure? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be complaining? So if we really want to be happy, can we choose to be happy? Can we choose to be grateful? Can we appreciate more? Can we appreciate the little things that we have in our life? I think that is the first step to enhancing the structure and the quality of our neo brain. Looking for the good in people, looking for the good in the world is the first step. There's something known as blue sky thinking. Blue sky thinking means optimism. I look at the sky during the pandemic. What were we doing? We were just talking to people, just listening to people. We couldn't do anything more. But everybody was hoping for the good. And when we look at the best scenario which is going to come up in our life, not the worst scenario, then we make a habit of that. So, friends, what I'm telling is that when we wire our thinking to think of the good, to think of good in people, to look at the good in people, to look at the good in circumstances, to look at the good in the world, that is where we strengthen our power of our this mind, neocortex. And David has already mentioned about the skills. When we learn a new language, when we learn a new skill, when we start learning to sing, we start learning to dance or to cook or to paint or golfing, or it could be anything, that is going to help us to develop the white matter of our neocortex. The last four things, which are the most important things, are very, very important, is distract yourself from the distractions. Today, friends, we are living in a world of instant gratification, and that is a killer of our neurons. You know why? Because when we go for instant gratification, it's very, very easy to get what we want at the drop of a hat. We have the money, we have the time, we have everything, and we just order and we get it. We want the movie ticket, we get it. We want something, we get it. Immediately, we get it. Online, we get it. But that is what is killing us of our patience, of our mind control. If any of you remembers that story, finished story, they have done that study, the marshmallow study. It was done for small children, and the children who could resist having the marshmallow were the people who could control their mind, and they achieved success in the long run. So today, I think due to resist instant gratification and this social media is killing us. I don't want to talk too much about it. We are looking for our validation through our social media. That is killing our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and I think the self-talk that we are doing with ourselves is again very, very important. I tell you, friends, all of you are beautiful, all of you are awesome. Only we have to think about it the same way. I have a friend who was a little overweight, and when she would get up in the morning and when she would stand on her scale was her medium of happiness or not happiness on that particular day. If she had put on a little bit of weight, she was upset, and the whole day she would do nothing with that. The scale is not telling you, the scale is just a number. Why would you want to stand up on the scale also? I would say that instead of getting up on the scale, look into the mirror and tell yourself how beautiful you are, how awesome you are. And life is like an echo. Whatever you tell life, it comes back. So if you go to the mountain and if you tell something to the mountain is going to say, if I tell the mountain, I admire you, the mountain says the same back to me. I admire you. If I say you're a champion, that is what the mountain tells me back, that I'm a champion. So friends, we have to understand who we are, and when we tell the right things to ourselves, we don't sabotage ourselves. I'm coming to one of the next part of the brain after a while, but there are four more things I want to tell you which will strengthen the brain, and that is one is the sleep pattern. If we don't sleep enough, it helps us to our white matter in the frontal brain reduces. Our memories falls down. Our decision making, our focus, our concentration goes down when we have inadequate sleep. It also reduces our longevity. The other thing is exercise. Exercising is so important. When we are exercising, we are releasing some neurochemicals, and these neurochemicals are not only dopamine and serotonin, but there is something known as brain BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor. This helps in neurogenesis. This helps in the increasing of the number of the neurons. That is why I say that the particular exercises, walking, whatever you can do, continue to do the exercise. And last but not the least is the diet. Diet. So I think you can eat a Mac burger or a big chicken, or you can have Oreos. That's not helping us with our frontal lobe. So we have to stick to our vegetables, fruits, and all the healthy food, and then we can have a healthy brain. Over to you, David. I want you to talk about the. I want you to talk about the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is very, very important.
Before you move away, I want to ask you a question on how does the blue sky thinking, learning, and thinking apply? Can you elaborate on that? The blue
See, the
sky thinking.
optimists, they live longer than the pessimists. So what I'm
Right.
talking about is, you meet some people. I can tell you, in my clinic, I always meet some people. They have the best of everything, and yet they're worried. Worried that they're going to die. They're worried that the whole world is going to come into an end. They're worried that there will be a world war. They're worried of all kinds of things. So it's not a matter to laugh, but I think that has to be changed. That you have to change that negative worrying thinking to something good is going to happen in your life. The best thing, the best scenario is going to be that the pandemic is going to go away, and I'm going to get back to my work, and I'm going to be healthy, and I'm happy, and I'm capable, and I'm grateful. So this is what I'm talking about. The blue sky thinking has to be introduced to us so that we become optimists and go away from pessimism.
Now, with that blue sky thinking, how will it impact the neuroplasticity that we are working with?
So,
That's yes.
so
Continue,
we
please.
are, yeah. So we are hardwired for negativity.
Hmm.
Human mind is hardwired for negativity. We are all the time thinking of negativity. Negativity pulls us down. So we have to. So those fibers are getting cultivated in our brain. The trench of negativity is being formed inside our brain. That is called the pathway, which is being formed. So when you go on thinking negative thoughts, negative, 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 that is what we are having in our brain, and that makes us go down, and it takes us to depression, and it takes us to anxiety, and it takes us to stress. On the contrary, if you make your happy thoughts, if you can make loving thoughts, if you say that empathetic thoughts, and if you say that optimistic thoughts, things are going to get better. The best
Yeah.
scenario is going to be that there is going to be a sunshine, there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. When I start thinking in that way, I wire my brain in a different way. That's what I'm talking about.
See, many don't realize the power of this. This is basically creating that shift mentally, and it's only a small shift, but it has got dynamic influence in the outcome that you're going to get from it. So when one understands this little shift that we want to happen, in so doing, we create this neuroplasticity, and we're wanting it to be nurtured. So if you want to nurture good thoughts, that's what you're going to put in there. Now, please, audience out there, do not feel that I am negative or you are negative because of so and so. Understand this concept, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Alka. The mind of the human being, especially primitive mind that you're going to elaborate a lot on, is logically a hunter's mind. They have always been in that state. Therefore, what is a hunter's mind? They're always coming from the not so good state. They are negative, they are poor little me syndrome, all of that. Now, as we evolved in time, that brain reduced in size and our frontal cortex increased in size. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You're a neuroscientist, David.
No, I learned it all from you. I'm just trying to figure it out how so I can get to the audience so they can use this principle. This is the
Great,
key to it, guys.
great learner. Very great, lifelong learner.
This is the key to it. Now, when you do something like that, listen, all you got to do is for 2 hours sit down and talk to Dr. Alka Chadha, and you will get all of these things. Then you don't have to worry about, mother-in-law problem, father-in-law problem, mother problem. No, all that will be gone. I tell you, friends, this is basically what you got to understand. This primitive brain, flush it down the toilet. Your self-doubt comes from that primitive brain. Your lack of confidence comes from that primitive brain. There is only one home for it, the toilet bowl. On the flip side, what you got to do now is you got to go back and get from Dr. Alka these frontal cortex things. that she explained to you. And then you put the patterns that we at MRM teach people, put that in place, and then you put this neuroplasticity in there and you fertilize it. And you you fertilize it, water, fertilize. After 60 days, you see what happens. The 55 people are floating in air.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's my understanding of my talk with you for the last 2 days.
David, you remember how our moms used to make crochet and knitting they used
Yes,
to do? The
yes,
repeated
yes.
things, the repeated acts of knitting and crochet. My mom has made shawls and scarves and bags of crochet. I still have them with me and I really cherish them. I really treasure them. So this
Mm,
was a prescription given long ago by doctors to women, And when they did
right.
these things, they got engrossed in these things and the wiring of the brain changed from stress and anxiety to something more creative. This is one of the ways where, like the neocortex is made that you really pointed out. So at our age or at any age, learning a new skill and learning something new is going to help us to make our crochet, our crochet. I'm saying our brain new. So before I go to the lab, before I go to the fire, the peer brain, I want David to tell us a little bit about the temporal part of the brain, which is very important, for the listening skills, for the hearing. It's meant.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mamma Mia. I love this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. God gave us 2 ears and one mouth. Use it in the right proportion. That's all I got to tell you. It is true. Many people don't understand. Even yesterday, when I was running the mastermind, I had to stop a few people to say, listen, hold back. Not that I'm talking, there are other people talking. Listen attentively. When you listen attentively, certain things happen, dynamics happen inside of you. I found that today it actually impacts your brain. The
yeah.
power of listening impacts your brain. Now, what you got to do is just zip this and use these two here. And that's you do. And that's it. What happens then is dynamics. Why? Very simple. When you have an issue and you don't effectively listen, you assume certain things
Yes.
and you make a perception out of that. And in so doing, it actually creates a challenge either for you or for that person if it's not right. But if you listen to it, whatever is being said attentively, and actually, I am a scriber, which means I take notes just out of habit. I take notes. It re-emphasizes in me. And Alka was talking earlier about wiring our brain. Okay, incidentally, I'm not trying to promote my book, but let me tell you something. I didn't even know about all of this stuff. My first book is written, Wire Your Brain for Success. Okay, I didn't even know anything about this stuff. Now, in hindsight, I'm looking at it. That's actually a universe talking to me and telling me, man, you're on the right track, pal. So, one of the things that I'm suggesting here is when you listen attentively, you are actually putting rail tracks in your brain.
Absolutely.
And when you put rail tracks in your brain, it's like how India had all the rail systems put together. That is going to help you crystallize in your future. This is putting it very simplistically. So, if I were you, Alka's going to tell her story about what her dad told her. If I were you, I would follow Alka's dad's advice. And that will really put you in shape.
Yeah,
Seriously, guys. Go on,
yeah. My
Alka.
dad used to always tell me that when you're with some people, listen carefully what they're talking about. Don't try to jump in because I'm very impulsive. I would like to talk. And he always curbed my talking. He said, just listen to people what they're talking. If you open your mouth, if you don't open your mouth, they think that you are a fool. But when you open your mouth, they are confirmed. This kept this kept
You're a
me
confirmed.
unnecessarily. Actually. And what I've learned over a period of time is that as doctor also I have to listen to my patients' stories because if I just listen from my ears, I may not be able to understand. There is something they're trying to say beyond their words. They're not telling that my back is paining or my sugar is rising. There is something else that they're telling us that something is bothering them, something is hurting them, something at home is wrong with them, somebody is not loving them, they don't feel themselves, they don't feel good about themselves. So that is what I feel that when we listen with our heart, with our heart, not only with our ears. When we listen with our heart, we actually listen to their problems and we actually listen to human beings. And that is the crux of a human behavior, that we should try to, become good listeners in life if we want to empathize, and that helps us to become more empathetic. And today we don't need successful people. The Dalai Lama says we need storytellers who can talk about empathy, who can reach out to people. We need kindness, and we need all of these things, beautiful things in our life. And these are all, by the way, things which nurture and which our frontal brain is becoming stronger day by day. So that's about the
Mm.
parietal lobe. Now, tell me what, David, what are you scared of in life?
Oh my God, everything, everything. Because, but I've controlled it. That little thing, the kidney-shaped brain in there, has actually been a terror for me. But over time, I understood how to control it. Now, you want to talk on that part, because that is the key where we're going to shift everybody to think about how they can step up.
Yeah, so we have a small part called amygdala in the internal brain, and amygdala is supposed to be the danger detector. It detects the danger in our environment as
Mm.
predators, as gatherers and hunters. When we went to hunt for food, someone can come and attack us, and that was why that amygdala was built in us. Over a period of
Right.
time, the amygdala has become smaller, but yet we still need it to detect danger. But today it has become our inner voice. Our inner voice is always telling us you're not good enough, you're not this, you're fat, and you're not good looking, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. So it is for us, it makes us scared and petrified of life, and we get stuck in our life. So the key is to quieten this amygdala. So how do we quieten this amygdala? So whenever we have stress, there is something known as the HPA axis. That is the hypothalamus. It's the upper part of the brain. Then we have the pituitary. The pituitary gland is here, and it's connected. And then this pituitary gland is an endocrine gland, and this is connected to the adrenal medulla and the adrenal cortex in the abdomen, which is sitting above the kidney. Now, this HPA axis gets activated whenever we are scared, whenever we are facing some kind of stress in our life. All right. Now, what this hypothalamus will do? It will secrete a receptor which stimulates the pituitary gland, which secretes one hormone and which helps to secrete two stress hormones. One is the cortisol from the adrenal cortex, and the other is adrenaline. These two hormones are stress hormones, and they help us to become alert. Our pupils dilate, our blood pressure rises, the blood flow to the brain rises. So we become very alert as to what danger is coming, and we can take an action. And our
Mm.
palpitations increase, our respiratory rate increases. So we are nervous. So all the symptoms when we are nervous, when we are going on stage for public speaking, for example, when we are going to meet our girlfriend for the first time or the boyfriend for the first time or whatever the stress in life may be, all of these things activates the HPA axis. So when there's acute stress, it's all right. We can we can deal with it, and this helps us to fight, flight, or to freeze. So we can either fight a situation or we can run away from there. So its body is preparing us for all of these three things. Now, when this stress becomes of chronic times, it's always there. Always we are thinking negative, and always we are scared. Always we are petrified. We are thinking, we are pessimistically thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to fall sick. There's this hypochondriacs. What they tell, I'm going to fall sick. I'm going to fall sick, and they really fall sick. They tell those things to themselves. That is what happens to them. They wire themselves. And there was this lady. She said, "I'm going to get cancer. I'm going to get cancer." And this I came to know. Her daughter told me. She came with breast cancer, and her daughter was telling me, my mom, for the last 15 years, because her mom had cancer, she's always getting scared that she will get cancer, she will get cancer. So I'm not saying that's the only reason, but if we keep on getting that fear in us, that is how we are wiring our brain, friends. And the chronic stress is going to lead to high blood pressure. It can lead to depression. It can lead to chronic anxiety. It can lead to chronic fatigue, and it can lead to the biggest danger of all, that is Alzheimer's. All this negativity makes plaques, and these plaques are being deposited in the brain, and they are going to cause the degenerative diseases of the brain, and it leads to dementia and to Alzheimer's. So how we can prevent this? Again, the development of the neocortex is the theme, is the thing. So we have to become mindful of what are we talking, of what are we saying. Can we change the wiring of our brain? Can we have happy thoughts? Can we change our self talk? Are we proud of ourselves? Do we feel good about ourselves? I want you to tell that the chronic stress patients, they can be helped. They can be really be helped. The depression patient, the chronic stress patients can be helped by simple methods, by changing their wiring. And you know what we are doing in our MRM is we are doing the early morning rituals, we are doing the me times, we are doing the nighttime rituals. If we can have a particular way of going to bed every night, we write down, we write gratitude, and we put the happy thoughts in our mind, and we do certain things in the morning also. From the we have a fire to wire club in the morning, where we are doing these rituals and where we are changing our thought process and we are changing our wiring of the brain. That is the way to do it. And by doing that, we are going to be strengthening the frontal cortex, and slowly, 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 the inner voice and the inner part of the scary part of the amygdala is going to go down. What do you say, David? I've spoken
So
enough now.
true.
Yeah.
So true. Because that is a key area that we've been focusing on for the last 30 weeks. And most people don't realize the significance of it when it was first implanted. Now, what you can understand is with that particular implant, all we got to do is superimpose practice into each of those patterns. And I'm not going to go through and cover all the patterns here. This is not the platform for it. If you want, you can look at joining the MRM. By the way, we're not here promoting MRM for the sake of promoting and making money out of it. It is a complimentary, free mastermind. When I say free, I mean you come there to work. You don't come there to sit on your bum and do nothing. So this is the area that we want to make sure people are understanding. I am doing this with a team of people in a contributionary way so people can understand how they can really wire the brain and they can go and excel in whatever area that they want to do. Now, this concept of wiring, most don't still comprehend. I can see from some of the questions. What you got to understand, the question that is raised in my DM here, why do I need to wire my brain, is a question that's come up. I am wired enough. Now, unless you understand and comprehend what wiring is creating a shift from where you are to another area that you want to go. And that will not all happen automatically. I'm going to do a test here. And I'm going to test this doctor that's sitting opposite me. And please bear with me. I'm going to test the mathematics, okay? I want you to just see this. Alka, 3 multiplied by 3, what is that?
9.
8 multiplied by 2, what is that?
16.
4 multiplied by 3, what is that?
12.
Now, she never even thought. It was auto-responding. Okay? It was auto-responding. And what I want you to now understand is, if you rewind this video to when Alka was in primary school 1, and the teacher was saying 1 by 1 is 1, 1 by 2 is 2, 1 by 2, and she used to repeat this. But before it got into her system, she was making all the errors. There was a 1 or 2 stick in the bottom to give pain to get that in here. Okay? So that implanted the wiring. And what you now got to understand is that is the wiring that we are trying to get people as adults to do. But see, as adults, we think, oh no, it's too small, too little for me. It's ego, and all other things come to play. Guys, flush the ego in the toilet bowl. If you want to come up in life, do some of the basic fundamentals, rewire your brain, and see where you go in life. Thank you so much, Alka. Off to you.
Absolutely right. You know, David, if we can change our thoughts habitually, we can change our emotions. And, you know, whatever negativity we have, first and foremost, we have to be mindful to see it. Some of us
Yeah.
don't even know that we're behaving in a negative way. I myself did not know. I used to think that I'm right. When I went to the kitchen and I found faults with my maidservant, I said, of course I'm right. But then my daughter-in-law told me, Mom, don't tell her anything, she will run away. That was a fear factor. That was a fear factor. If she runs away, then what am I going to do? And then I changed my thinking that I'm not going to speak anything. And that is what happened. And I tell you one thing, that over a period of time, when we do this habitually again and again, like David pointed out, like a table of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, it gets engraved in the brain. And today I want to tell you, if you read Bruce Lipton, he says that the same wiring of the brain goes to our DNA. So that is where we are aiming for. The behavior and our emotions and our feelings has to go on again and again. The trench has to be formed inside the brain, and then it goes into deep into our DNA, and that becomes a way of our life. that becomes our lifestyle. So if we are talking about preventing dementia, if we're talking about preventing any of these lifestyle disorders, we have to first change our behavior. We have to exercise, we have to eat the right kind of food, we have to be committed, we have to be disciplined. And one more thing is to surrender to the higher intelligence, which is what we are
Thank
learning
you.
at MRM. That's a wonderful place to be. And I would say, what do you want to say, David? Something else you want to say?
I really, really, really appreciate and be so thankful for you to make it so simple and fun. We can come here and put all the slides and talk about technical stuff, but when you make it as simple as you've done, it's an art, to do that. And I totally take my hat off to you. Thank you so much for that. But guys, when you look at this here, we're not here trying to pontificate and say, this is all you got to do. No, everybody goes through this. Everybody has got this primitive brain, and everybody has got this frontal cortex brain. It's how much of practice that you do, and how much, and I think I come in here, how much of real exposure that you have to create that awareness such that the muscles are stretched. Then you see the difference in you. The primitive brain comes small, the kidney shaped brain comes very small. It's right in the center of the heart and the brain, in the two lobes there. And the other part here becomes big. And then you see, my God, this guy is cooking with gas, they say in the Western countries, which means he is really working not hard, but smart. And that's the power. That's what we want to get into people. So those that are thinking, what is it they're asking me to practice? Because that's what got me where I am, and that's what I'm trying to get you to do it where you are.
So if we can, if the exercise is to the body, what the exercise is to the body, I would say the changing of our thinking is to our neocortex. And if we can change our complaining to, contentment, if we can change our criticism to appreciation. I have one particular tagline, I used to always say, it is nice to be nice. How much does it cost you to be nice? And when we make it a habit to give a compliment to people, to appreciate people, to look at the good in people, that is what enhances the structure of our neocortex. I just want to end by saying that
No,
think
no, no,
of
no. You're not ending yet. I got four more questions. I got to put in there. I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can, lady.
okay.
Now, I want you to help me and explain to people. There's so many of them out there doing gratitude journals and all of this. How does it wire the brain here again? Just to emphasize that, because this is vital.
So when you write on a piece of paper, the connection between the fingers and the brain is very strong. So when you keep on writing, keep on writing, keep on reading, the whole thing becomes a trench. It becomes a pathway in the brain. And I tell you one thing, I read my gratitude journals, which I have written like 3, 4, 5, 6 months before. And the amount of happiness it gives me, the amount of pleasure it gives me, and the amount of contentment it gives me. Because at that time, I was so upset, but I was writing my gratitude journal in spite of so many things I did not have. So much of challenges I was facing, and yet I was writing my gratitude journal. And writing the gratitude journal makes us realize that we have so much in our life that we don't appreciate. And when we appreciate those things are going to be attracted in our life. If we talk about what we don't have, like for example, somebody doesn't have a phone, what we call that one iPhone 14. He's having iPhone 13, but he's talking about iPhone 14, and he's not enjoying the iPhone 13. Enjoy what you have, appreciate what you have. And if you go on talking about what you don't have, that is what is going to be attracted into our life. It's very, very simple. So we are hardwiring our brain by writing the gratitude journal, and we're attracting those things that we are writing upon. And plus, we are secreting dopamine, we are secreting oxytocin, and we're making connection with our own self. It is a
Excellent.
way.
I was going to come in. If you went off without saying that, I was going to come in and say, those chemicals, lady, come on, talk about it. Yeah. Most don't understand the significance and relationship between the dose chemicals and the hormones. And when we do simple things like this, life is simple, life is fun. I got another question before we wind down. These are the two areas that we talk a lot about in our me time and making sure you do some templates for your own work improvement. Silence time. the significance of silence time and how it wires the fire within you.
Absolutely. This is my favorite time I do. And I've learned it very, very difficulty with a lot of difficulty. I've learned it because I was never sitting in silence. I was opening my eyes like this, like this. I could never sit in silence. So I learned it from my husband. I learned it from becoming, I did some mindfulness classes and I learned it from there. But I tell you one thing, whenever we get angry, whenever we get upset, whenever we go in a frustration mood, somebody has said something to us, somebody has not said something to us, somebody has done something for us, something has not done, somebody has been rude to us. If I realize at that moment, if I can become silent and if I go within myself, sometimes I realize that I have also co created that situation. And when I
Right.
realize that if I'm the co creator of that situation, who am I to forgive that person? I remember my dad telling me that I told my dad, I forgiven that girl. He said, what? What is her mistake? You have also done that. You provoked her to speak like you have provoked her to speak rudely to you. What can you can't you have forgiven her. So I'm just saying, when we go into silence, we go inside ourselves. That is the most important thing in life. And I tell you, friends, there is no problem in this life, there is no challenge in this life which cannot be sorted by the inner journey. When we go inwards, we realize, and I tell you, if I remain silent for 24 hours, the next morning I realize that problem was not a problem at all. It was so
Mm,
trivial, it's not worth reacting at all. So if we can
mm,
be mindful, we can take a pause, we go back and we take a pause between the stimulus and my response. We need not take a response, we need not respond at all, and the problem gets sorted by itself. There are some other
right.
unique problems. I'm not talking about that, but it has helped me in my life. Next day morning, I can't remember what happened. And I'm thinking, I want to tell my husband something, I want to tell him, but I can't remember. There was this girl, she came to my clinic and she said that, you know, 15 days I have not spoken to my husband. So I said, why? What happened? What was the fight about? So she says, I don't remember. So 15 days you're obviously going to forget. So I'm just telling, let us be mindful of what we are doing, and this is answer to your question. Silence is
Thank
very golden
you.
to me. The silence
Thank
has a
you.
little bit of its own, yeah.
Yeah. Fabulous. Great. I don't believe it. It says 58.4 minutes. I just before I wind down, can you very quickly capsule for the audience what, in your opinion, just two key things that we went through today for them to take over and start practicing? Two key things.
First thing is keep find the good, look at the good. There is what is the most important thing right now, then which is the most important minute in your life, the next minute. So this next minute which is coming into your life, what are you doing about it? Are you going to waste it or are you going to make good of it? If you're going to make good of it, then do something good about it. Feel good about yourself. Don't negatively self talk and sabotage yourself. You are beautiful, you are awesome, you are fantastic, and you are the champion. And this thought is going to take you very, very high in your life. And when you have this goodness coming into yourself, I remember someone telling me, how can I be good? How can the goodness come into me? It will come if you allow it to come. And it comes drop by drop and little by little, and it makes a pathway in your brain, and it makes you into a very happy, successful, beautiful person. You are beautiful, friends, and that's what I want to say to you. Thank you so much.
Fabulous, fabulous. And in closing, my comment is very simple. When we talk about trying to wire your brain, and Alka just opened my thought to another illustration I want to give you. Drop by drop. I just want you to picture a dripping tap. And in a dripping tap, as it falls on the concrete, there's a little hairline crack in the concrete. But the tap's been dripping for the last 4 or 5 months. That hairline crack becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You get it? So
Yeah.
when you practice what we're talking about, and over time you can see you will break past all of the challenges that are there and you will get your breakthrough, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when you feel that breakthrough and you feel very good about it, Alka will give you a bank account that you can deposit some money into it.
You know,
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry.
I'm remembering something. I just want to say that if you take care of your minutes, there's a Tibetan saying, if
Yes.
care of your minutes, the years will take care of themselves. So take your minutes
Yes.
seriously, become a good person, become a smart person, become a beautiful person, a hardworking person, and tell David what you're achieving in your life. There's nothing that you can't achieve. Thank you.
No, no, there's nothing. I mean, I can give you example after example after example, but I'm not going to do that. Ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen, it's been a great pleasure. And before I do that, Alka, it's been fantastic to work with you in the last 2 days. Just half an hour here, half an hour there to pull together this particular talk. And I really enjoyed it. Number one. Number two, I learned a lot from it. And number three, it's great contribution for the audience to look at it and start working with some of the practices, which will superimpose on what we have put together in MRM. Ladies and gentlemen, also to make sure that you understand, MRM is a mastermind. And through that, because these are the types of people that are in it, they have pulled together and brought a book out, a book titled Grail, Tick Your Life Right with Purpose. That book is on the market as of now. Go into Amazon, purchase it. The money doesn't come to any of us. One of the things I pointed out to the authors, there are 30 of them. It's an anthology of purpose, meaning 30 authors have written that pursuit to a purpose, and that is available in the market today.
absolutely.
All of the funds received here on, and it'll be a continuous anthology that we're going to release every 6 months, editions of the editions with the new members coming in. All of the proceeds received are going to two causes stationed in India. Cause number one is to the aged community.
Yes,
I feel we need to give respect and we need to give some good comfort in their last ending days of their life. Number one.
absolutely.
Number two, funds are being channeled for the underprivileged education of kids
Yes,
who are displaced. Unless we can put that nurturing pedestal right, then neuroplasticity will not grow. So that's the reason why we've driven this way. And I salute the authors to actually adhere and concur with this proposal. And today, all of the money is going in that direction. So please, you're contributing to a charity, do that. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I salute you and thank you so much, Alka, for coming on stage
thank
for
you
this
so
particular
much.
session.
Thank you very much.
Take care now. Bye bye.